message content is sent to a third party. Can't do anything against it if you want to be live streaming. Let's give it a few seconds. And here we go. Khorcheska, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you too, Christian. I've been well. How are you?
I'm fine. What time zone are you in? What time is it at your place?
I'm right now in the closer to the European time zone, so it's like closer to UK, and I'm going back to Mountain time zone in a couple days. So,
And what time is it at in your city?
so right now it's 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
Ah, you're on the east
Yes.
from, I'm in
Yes.
Vienna. I thought you're early morning, so you're late afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in Canada, where is your company located?
We're located in Calgary, in Alberta.
Mhm.
We're located in Calgary for the last 2 years. In general, company exists 2.5 years basically. We funded our company in February 2021.
You had quite a journey. I saw on your website. It was Nova Scotia, Calgary, Toronto. Did I get it right?
No, we started from Toronto. We both, me and co-founder, we used to be postdocs at the University of Toronto. We've been looking for the lab space around like Toronto and Ontario, and we didn't find something that fits our specifications for the lab, and basically something that would fit the company growth in the upcoming like several months. So we left to Nova Scotia. It was also COVID time when the lab spaces were not really available. Then we moved to Nova Scotia, did the bootstrapping on the lab facility,
Mhm.
rent, and spend there like about half a year. I don't know exactly. Don't remember exactly. And then we moved back to Calgary. Moved to Calgary. Well, basically, our initial plan was going to Calgary, but the facility was not available right away during the COVID. So I think they didn't. They were like quite slow on replying. So we end up on Nova Scotia in Nova Scotia because we were under quite a strict milestones delivery on technical side, so we really needed the lab space. So we did a lot of hustling during the last 3 years, like moving and
I
like
believe it.
growing the team and raising funds, so and getting technical milestones done.
So we are talking about moving in Canada from East Coast to West Coast, basically.
Exactly, yeah, from East Coast to West Coast. So
So it's like moving in Europe from Hungary to Portugal, similar thing.
no, pretty much like that. Even but in Europe it would be warmer, right? Moving from high.
Yeah, at
But
least
in
it,
our case, it's opposite.
yeah. What are the benefits of both? I mean, I know Nova Scotia a little. I also lived half a year in Halifax back in 2015 and beginning of 2016, and I loved it. What are the benefits of both locations, Calgary and Nova Scotia? I mean, you experienced both as a scientist.
Uh, so in both locations, we would have an access to the feedstock. So we're looking for the locations where we would have a availability of the wood waste, and like both of these locations are pretty good. Nova Scotia, it's quite a remote location in terms of hiring and a growing team for the startups. Like it would be real painful, and
Mm.
that kind of like the biggest downside on startups being located over there. So Calgary is pretty much like central, and it's been like pretty popular for the last 2 years in terms of like people moving in and looking for the jobs. Is normally known for the oil sector, but the oil sector is shrinking significantly. So there is a big demand for the new technologies that would replace oil based production, and we actually see that. And yeah, like we're in both cases, like in location in Calgary is pretty good. We're near to the feedstock, and we actually fit on the agenda of the whole province of moving from the oil derived production to the renewable sources and technologies.
Yeah, in Canada they have a handful of woods, so
Absolutely.
basically. And your background is biochemistry.
Right. So I have a PG in biotechnology, biochemistry back from my home country. I also did my PhD in the University of Montreal, but I first moved to United States, did my internship in the vaccine production in Fraunhofer on the East Coast in Delaware. Then I was PG student at University of Montreal, and then I moved as a postdoc to University of Toronto, where I spent about 4.5 years, 5 years on the postdoc with my friend, now co-founder Anna. Anna spent there way longer time as a postdoc. So yeah, we've been working on the enzymes engineering, industrial application of the enzymes, and basically replacing existing traditional methods of the commodity chemicals production or high value productions from oil with the production from the renewable feedstocks using industrial enzymes and with industrial applications. So that's our background.
So basically, you and your co-founder have a few decades of experience in biochemistry.
Exactly, yeah. It's like quite a long time we spent in academia, and we actually, yeah, like from my side, I didn't see through that I would end up being entrepreneur. But the things went this way, and I'm actually very happy. So I've spent in academia like for almost 15 years or more.
Mm.
And I was like considering the professor position and stuff, but then actually my life changed, and a lot of things that were happening in academia back that time. I think the academia in general needs reforms, and I think there's no much place left for innovation, for actually growth of you as a not necessarily like only scientists, but also scientists that has like a lot of ideas and implication in, let's say, industry. And we've been working in collaboration with industry. So it's quite a narrow application for people that would stay in academia. So it was kind of limited options for me, and it was a great actually circumstance that I end up starting the company in 2021, because I would eventually leave academia in that form as it existed in North America in 2021, specifically in Canada. So I didn't see much progress going on there, much future in there. So I'm actually very happy in the position of an entrepreneur, where I can combine science, I can combine innovation, and I can use my energy to invent and basically grow the business.
So you're fully committed to your company 100 or 200%, and not 10% entrepreneurship, 90% academia, or vice versa.
I don't think it works 10% academia, 10% 90 internship, or vice versa. I think like you choose one path. I've seen like many examples of people, some so-called professors that trying to open the companies, run the companies. It's not very serious, doesn't usually end up well. Like you can be consultant in the company, but
Mm.
if you're running the company, you should be committed definitely to 100%, like to be able to get somewhere to deliver some out. It requires a lot of concentration, a lot of innovation at the same time. But it's the path that path is full of options, full of opportunities, and actually gives you energy as itself. Because what I've seen in academia is a lot of limitations that would stop people on from inventing, from actually using their creative side. In on entrepreneurship path, like it's different, and what we're trying to provide also to our employees, the opportunity is actually to create, to discuss, exchange ideas, and be innovative as maximum as possible. So yeah.
Let's stay a little bit about the commitment to entrepreneurship and academia. I completely agree to your point. And I also see other models where people say, okay, I mean, I'm 10% academia, 90% entrepreneur, or vice versa. Some said they would like to have the benefits of entrepreneurship, but the security of a safe job at the university. Why, in your opinion, doesn't it make sense to go down this route? Why does it make more sense to fully commit to one path?
Oh, well, maybe like it's also my character. I don't think if you decided to do something, like do it well or don't do it. And the statement of like having a safe job in academia, which I think it's not does not really exist in
Mm.
Canada anymore. First of all, you need to get into that professorship tenure path to have to be able to have that space. And another thing is it's actually killing the creativity whatsoever. So like if you want to have a safe job, you don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to be in a space of like biotech or pharma, like anyway. So you can just choose a other profession that can provide a secure job. So for me, being a scientist, it does go along with being creative, like have a freedom to create, freedom to innovate. But the secure job would be a lawyer, or that's something like you can, and would most probably you will spend less time on studying, or less, like you will sacrifice less health in terms of spending in the lab while being a lawyer. So you might as well study well and be a lawyer, and that's here it is, like a secure job for you. So not sure if yeah, like you can be consultant for the startup. Like some of the really good professors are very good consultants for the startups as well. Well, some unique people can combine entrepreneurship and like having a company and being like having a great professorship. That example is Uwe Bonjour, which is our actually advisor in the team. He's a vice dean in Greenswald University. At the same time, has also his own startup, but that's very unique case.
I imagine in your journey, like you started at academia, found a topic that you're interested in, and at one point in time you said, okay, this could be something tangible, it could be something that I can develop into a product that benefits society. I'm curious to learn what was this moment in time in your career where you flipped the switch and said, "I- I'm done with academia. I'm fully committed to my company." What was this moment? What defined it?
Uh, so actually, it was during the COVID, and in many ways, COVID defined it in the sense that we did have me and my friend in general in the lab. We had a lot of ideas that actually had a lot of applications, and then we were like read the paper and we were like, wow, like we actually were discussing it recently, and we thought, oh, it's actually negligible. Look at this, people are publishing paper in Nature. So we had a lot of ideas in the lab, and then we just didn't see much options to apply these ideas in academia. Had no future. We didn't have much support there as well. So it was a very distinctive uh, from in that sense, that we would not get much support in academia to proceed with the ideas that we want to um, uh, like imply in life, like in the lab, in idea the creative things that we want to do independent or have, like, so we didn't have much support, and we decided, yeah, we to be able to use our ideas, use our creativity, and be independent, and don't do not and not having this non-support plus restrictiveness, in a sense like that doesn't have any sense. We need to be independent and found our own company. So it actually academia just threw us out in a sense of basically we were like kind of like unnecessary, like bugging element, I guess, because they have their own dynamic that didn't fit our expectations and didn't fit our ideas of creativity and innovation in science.
Yeah, basically, I mean, basic research is basic research. It's academia, and product development is product development, and the best location for product development is companies, basically, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree definitely for sure. Like a lot of things do not think in academia and product development, also some of the things that, for example, some researchers would like to do and they do not have a permission for that. So I don't know. Like many people think that they have a freedom in academia, which is not true.
Mm.
So you might get much more freedom in R&D in a certain company, especially in a startup.
Yeah, it depends on what people want, basically. I mean, what I enjoyed back in the 90s was creative. I mean, you can focus on one idea one day, on the next idea the next day, and the third day, completely a different idea. Company is always something focused. I mean, at one point in time, a company must make a decision where to allocate resources and move forward.
Mm, we're focused, I can say that's true, but along we have a final goal of the product development, but we use a lot of innovation across the whole sector
Mm.
basically to implement. So it's actually good when you have a focus. It makes people, it calms people down and they like to have a certain goal. Even students or PG students, postdocs, when they have a certain goal on of their PhD thesis, not like, oh, this or that or maybe that, they feel much better. So a lot of PhDs failed because of the non-clear structure of the thesis and the final goal. So I don't think we'll have a problems on that side. Our people innovate along the way, but they do meet on product development milestones.
And after founding your company, you became accepted into IndieBio. Did I read that right?
Yeah, it happened at the same time, sort of. So we were accepted very fast and in the bio. They found our idea and approach very interesting, very innovative. They didn't hear anything like that before. So that term of zombie cells, like it's kind of like the project we offered were really interesting for them. So they decided to accept us right away. And from that moment, I think everything changed for us. So we discovered the whole new world of entrepreneurs, startups, and we're loving it. We enjoy the journey, and I feel like very happy down this road that I went down this path versus academia. I would be, I mean, it's definitely great, and the participation in IndieBio is life changing event. I think for many founders, it's the accelerator structure and the team is awesome. You just like you becoming like completely different from the day like when you enter in Dubai and then in the end you're like whole different person and your skill set and everything changes. It's very intense, but it's great. One of the greatest experience in my life.
Before we dive into your technology, zombie cells, which I find very interesting term-wise, can we talk a little bit about IndieBio? I mean, it's basically the Y Combinator of the biotech industry. It's one of the best incubation acceleration programs, and I mean, it's basically um, it's like the Nobel Prize for entrepreneurs. Let's phrase it that way. I mean, you're honored when you're part of IndieBio. It's not automatically that everybody gets accepted. When a biotech entrepreneur these days thinks about applying for a slot at IndieBio, what are the 5 benefits that helped you the most that you get at IndieBio?
You're like they prefer to take like pretty much the scientifically oriented founders. I
Mm.
think that's kind of like philosophy, and I mean they do take teams as well, but they like quite a deep tech companies. So the main benefits that you can take from there. So in I can tell about myself. So the things that you learn at IndieBio, you most probably cannot learn anywhere else. So that would be the way of organizing your company, the way of growing business, the way of running meetings with the investors, organizing your pitch deck, and giving the pitch, doing like communicating with your team, growing up your team, and actually the networking at IndieBio, yes, it's huge, but it's high quality as well. So it's a very unique ecosystem of the type of founders that they also choose. When I was in San Francisco last year at the SynBio Beta, so there were a lot of IndieBio founders at the same event. So when you actually from the different cohorts, I was from the cohort 11. We were at San Francisco. There were like cohort 13, I think, like earlier cohorts as well. But you get like you sync with them right away. So you kind of like they're like your friends right away. So I don't know why that magic happens. It doesn't happen with many other participants in BioBeta, but it does happen with the IndieBio founders. So it's just like awesome space for the creativity. They promote the creativity of the founders as well. So you're like somehow in a space where you wanna like do something awesome. So they give you this inspiration. That's for sure. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely great. What about investments? I mean, my personal opinion is an acceleration program is a time investment, a significant time investment. And when I'm asked what my opinion is, I always say, I mean, look, I mean, ask with the participants of the previous batches, ask them what they really got out of it. And one part that I think is very important, especially in biotech entrepreneurship, is access to investment capital. How does IndieBio help on that in that regard?
So IndieBio invests themselves. Initially, that's a big fund of SOC, and then you get to talk to investors like every day, several times a day, to the investors across the world. You get like it's countless amount of investors that you get to talk to. Like you talk to them, the ones that are specific to your field. There are investors like match up programs as well. So they organize a lot in terms of the basically for the investors themselves to meet the companies, and then for the companies to see across you get to know pretty much all the existing investors, important ones in the world. So you would have a list of the good ones and the ones that. So basically, they do everything for you to be able to raise the fund, raise your round, and then even let's say you didn't structure any relationships with investors, stuff like that, but you have an awesome idea, product development, milestones, delivery, they would help you themselves. They can do that. They help a lot in for founders to progress, to succeed.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Now let's move forward to your technology. On your website, I've read zombie cell technology. What are zombie cells? I mean, before you answer the question, I mean, I love series, and it always reminds me when I read the term zombie of basically the zombies in the series. And I thought, are the Canadians now developing zombies?
Well, it's an interesting term, like sort of to describe the cell state that we're using to achieve the production of the target product. We in most of the existing techniques of the producing any sort of high value product, they target sugar-based live cell fermentation. So where you're focusing on basically changing the metabolic pathways of the live cells microorganisms to make them eat sugar and convert sugar with a high yield to the product of your interest. So what are you doing? You're basically fighting the billions of years of evolution that created that microbe to make it eat the sugar at the rate that you want and produce the target protein product of your interest. So what we've been looking in, we've been looking at this from the different perspective. We've been looking in like enzymes as a catalyst to do the target reaction in the shortest path possible. So the enzymes themselves, they are really magical things that can do really difficult reactions that chemistry, for example, does not allow up until now. But the enzymes themselves, they suffer from things such as stability, and you need to express them fully intact. You need to express them fully active. So basically, you need to find the state where enzyme is stable, protected, and it's active, and thus the target reaction of your interest in a short path. So the way to do that, what we were thinking is basically stabilize our target enzymes within the cells without the degradation, but where the cell is no longer alive but is not dead, but porous enough for our substrate feedstock to convert that feedstock, which is actually toxic feedstock, to the product of our interest. So we came up with this invention that allows us to do that. We use toxic feedstocks that's being converted into the precursor main building block of nylon 6,6 in 3 steps using so-called zombie cells approach. We also utilize green chemistry approaches as well in our company to convert it into the nylon 6,6, but the technology behind the idea behind the zombie cells development is like that. So we want to use enzymes as a chemical catalyst to produce the product of our interest in a short path. Why we want to use enzymes? Because enzymes can do reactions much more efficient and substrate specific versus chemical catalysis. Chemical catalysis requires a lot of things that you can deal with a lot of intermediate side products and stuff like that, unless you came up with a really good short pathway to produce nylon 6,6. Enzymes application allows you to do substrate specific and very focused production of your target product. But yeah, you need to basically stabilize them, and you need to have them expressed active and well. So that's what we figured out within the zombie cells.
So you developed your technology and then decided to look with your technology towards the climate change space. What motivated you to focus on this area for further product development?
We've been looking into the commodity chemicals production space for quite a long time. When we were still working in academia, we've been collaborating with some of the industrial partners that were looking to switch to the renewable production of their chemicals. It's a very important thing right now. So there is a lot of pressure from the government as well to reduce CO2 and other gases emissions. So big industrial sector is looking to switch from the harmful production of the chemicals to more sustainable one. So we've been looking into this area for the basically like 7 years of our postdocs, and then we decided that we're actually good and skilled enough to do innovation and within our own company and go independent. And the reason why we chose nylon specifically, and the adipic acid is the main building block of the nylon 6,6. It's the fact is that specifically adipic acid production leads to the release of the nitrous oxide, the so-called laughing gas. So that specific gas, it's much more potent and toxic than CO2. It's 300 times more toxic than CO2. So that specific gas goes to the upper layers of atmosphere, binds to ozone layer, stays there about 115 years, destroying it. So a lot of companies been focusing on reducing CO2 emissions, while not so many companies been working on the reduction of more potent gases such as nitrous oxide or chlormethane and other chlorinated compounds that also being emitted into the atmosphere. So that was interesting for us. There was also no report on successful production of the biodipic acid whatsoever. So it was a kind of like empty space, an interesting space for us. So we decided to start with that. But in general, as a scientist, as entrepreneurs, we're looking into expanding the application of our technologies and producing other high value products from the wood waste and other agricultural waste. So we also, while working on the producing actually adipic acid, we also made the vanilla extract from the wood waste. It's one of our other products. As you know, maybe that vanilla extract is made from the vanilla beans, and that it's kind of like not a very ethic production, and it's every year it's reducing because of the ecological issues. So we decided like, yeah, it's great. We can also innovate in that space, and we keep innovating. We also keep innovating on producing other products and other types of waste. We're also targeting plastic waste, waste such as a PET, to produce high value products.
You mentioned laughing gas and the nylon industry and your product Nylon 66 or 66. Can you explain it for me a little bit deeper how nylon industry contributes to this laughing gas problem?
So what's happening on production on adipic acid production plants that they start from oil, and then from oil they get cyclohexanone. Cyclohexanone goes through the ring opening and to make adipic acid, and that ring opening happens in the presence of nitric acid. So that's where the nitrous oxide is released. When cyclohexanone mixed with the nitric acid and then adipic acid is made at the adipic conventional petroleum-based adipic acid production plant, nitrous oxide released. So nitrous oxide, a lot of this nitrous oxide, the plants that have under very strict regulation, they try to filter, but they cannot fully filter it, even just a little bit, even 20% of that nitrous oxide being anyway released in the atmosphere. But for example, some of the plants that located in United States, even though they filter 80% of the nitrous oxide, the remaining 20% of nitrous oxide yearly accounts to about 33,000 tons of nitrous oxide, which is equivalent to 2 million cars emissions yearly. So it's that bad in terms of the CO2 equivalency, the potency of this gas. And when we're talking about the emission index of the adipic acid, 1 kilo of the adipic acid leads to 140 liters of nitrous oxide release, which is equivalent to 42,000 liters of CO2. So it's a huge number. So for a better understanding, basically, if you have a nylon pants in your house, it's basically high performance outerwear, usually made out of nylon 66. So the emission index of that pants would be enough to fill the bachelor apartment with the CO2. So pretty much like that. So like one room would be enough to fill it.
So that means which clothes have nylon as integrated running pants?
Like high performance outerwear, like leggings, some yoga pants. You can just like tights, for example, women tights. It's a very strong polymer, right? So and stretchy at the same time, has a really good quality. So it's used a lot in application and high performance outerwear.
So basically, the Canadian yoga apparel brand Lululemon uses nylon 66 And this means this contributes to the destruction of the ozone layer of
Yeah, it
the
does.
Earth,
Like
basically.
any production of the adipic acid and any industry that uses nylon 66 contributes into the destruction of the ozone layer. Biggest application of actually nylon 66 is in automotive industry and construction business.
So basically,
So
everything that stretches has a high chance of.
yes, it not just everything stretches. Everything is strong
Mhm.
should have a nylon 66 in it, or for example, polyurethane does have some amount of adipic acid to improve their quality. And automotive parts have a lot of nylon 66. The support of the engine is made out of nylon 66. When you fuse nylon 66 with glass, you get very strong polymer as well, used in automotive industry. Famous zip ties that used in construction business. Everywhere at home we have the zip ties. They only made from nylon 66. So a lot of it, it's about $30 billion market globally. So it's very hard to give up on that polymer because it has a lot of great qualities in terms of performance. It's
What?
one of them. Yeah.
Let's just imagine. Let's say we have this one politician who can change everything overnight. And let's assume that this politician, the super politician, decides we eliminate nylon 66 from one day to the other entirely. It's gone tomorrow. How would the world look like if we just take it out of the equation entirely?
So the automotive industry will suffer a lot, and they basically will have to rethink on how to make a lot of parts in the cars. Then the construction business, installations, and some of the support parts will have to replace that. Conductivity, like for example, chips, phones, they do have as well nylon.
Chips,
You yes, like yeah,
really?
microchips. Yeah, because it is used in electronics as well.
Mhm.
Yes, so that will be suffering. Apparel industry is not, yeah, like I mean, it's not life threatening, right? But yeah, construction business, automotive business will suffer in that sense. I mean, it's very strong and stretchy. It has all the properties that polymer should have in terms of applications in hard industry.
So if you take nylon 66 out of the equation from one day to the other, it means the automotive industry must find new ways, which is not possible from one day to the other. Construction industry, so it's basically it affects everything.
It will affect a lot of things. Yeah, it will.
I didn't know that. I was not aware that
Yeah,
this.
it's not very known information, I know. And the thing is with nylon, there are other nylons as well. Nylon 12, now nylon 9, for example, the one that uses they use in microchips. It's very difficult to make. It's about 40 steps of synthesis to make that nylon. So it's crazy. There are a lot of nylons that is used in industry. It's a huge application, so we cannot give it up altogether. And the thing is about the nylon 66 application is well, some amount of it added into other polymers to make them plastic, to improve the plasticity, stability. Adipic acid itself is added into the polyurethanes to improve the plasticity as well. Adipic acid added in other resins. It has its own market on its own, or apart from the nylon 66, adipic acid has its market for the resins production as well. So they also like a lot of the garden hose also would be made from the nylon 66 insulators, many things. Yeah.
And this all contributes at the end of the day to the destruction of the ozone layer, which is
Yeah.
an odd
Yes,
thing.
it is. It's the number that exists in literature overall, like the overall global emissions related to the adipic acid production is about 60 million tons of CO2 emission equivalent every year. If you filter most of the nitrous oxide from the plant, it's great. If you do not filter at all, let's say the production is not regulated, that would create basically ozone hole, which is no, I mean, ozone holes migrate, right? If it does not necessarily will stay up or above that country where the emission was happening, it will might go anywhere. So that is really dangerous. I mean, we definitely have to do something about the ozone hole. So that's something that will definitely speed up the global warming and increase the chances of the cancer diseases and so on.
Do we still have this problem with the ozone hole? I thought it was gone already or
Um,
solved.
there was a Montreal Convention, right, on the chlorinated compounds
Mm.
uh, that were disrupting the ozone hole significantly, chlorinated and fluorinated compounds. But there are gases such as the nitrous oxide, they do still contribute on ozone hole disruption and the binding of the into the upper layers as well. Yeah.
So if we
I mean,
take,
the fact that if we don't, I mean, the thing is, if there is no information in the press about the ozone holes or like emissions, it doesn't mean necessarily that the problem is solved. It might be just because yeah, no one wants to talk about it.
I'm a simple-minded country boy. I thought it was solved. It's not apparently, so I misinterpreted the information I got. So this means if we want to keep our planet in a good state for our kids, it makes sense to tackle this problem of nylon 66.
Absolutely, and a lot of industries are very much interested in replacing the specifically adipic acid production with the more sustainable ones. It's a number one task for them right now. For many apparel brands, especially the ones that they actively using now success in their products, it's a number one task to replace nylon 66 and reduce the emissions. And nitrous oxide has been added into the last publication of the Gases Reduction Act by
Mm.
Biden administration. So nitrous oxide and adipic acid specifically has been added there as well, so as in a separate chapter. So, and we might be like recently the taxes on the methane in the United States, right? Like kicked in. So we might be dealing soon with the taxes on the nitrous oxide as well.
Mm. So the prices will go up. And I'm curious to learn for the non-scientists, how can zombies help to solve this problem?
So the enzymes will help to solve the problem. You need to help enzymes to solve this problem. So the way we, like I said, like we find the way, we do everything to stabilize our enzymes to increase their lifetime in the operational conditions to do the reaction. We think on many other approaches in the green chemistry to allow us to produce the adipic acid emission zero. And that's what we're doing actually right now. We're already at the kilogram scale of production of bioadipic acid from the wood-derived feedstocks. We already made some amount of adipic acid that's been certified as a fully bio-based by isotope analysis. Right now, we are already at the kilogram scale of producing bioadipic acid from the wood-derived feedstocks, implementing our zombie cells approach, other approaches on the green chemistry. And we actually, at this stage, we're already did even nylon 66 using our bioadipic acid. We successfully polymerized our adipic acid to nylon 66, proved that it can be used for the polymerization because it's tricky. So not all you can make some amount of bioadipic acid, but if let's say you have certain contamination in there, then the polymer might not grow. So in our case, the grade of the adipic acid that we have allows us to make high quality of nylon 66, and we're going to be transitioning in upcoming years to hundreds of kilograms to ton scale.
Mhm.
And yeah, like we're progressing pretty fast in that sense. So yeah, hopefully we will be able to solve this problem soon.
I would like to understand the solution a little bit better. Maybe we can dissect it step by step. So if I understood it right, what you said, traditional nylon production is oil-based. Did I get this right?
Yes, absolutely. So traditional adipic acid production is petroleum based.
Mhm.
They start with cyclohexanol, and they do ring opening with a nitric acid as a side product as nitrous oxide is being released. Our solution is we start with the wood waste, such as wood bark, sawdust. We also use nutshells as well.
So you
Usually
replace oil completely,
we
100%.
replace oil completely. Yes, we replace oil completely. We use nutshells. We use wood bark, sawdust. We're really targeting wood waste. We're not targeting a live wood or high quality wood. We're really interested in waste, and we like the waste. That's actually our target fraction. When we convert that waste we process that waste through
Mhm.
using the pyrolysis, and we extract the fraction of our interest and then convert it using the biocatalysis and then green chemistry into the adipic acid through the emission zero process.
So basically, you use the wood waste that nobody needs and would be thrown away otherwise to make a useful product out of it that is for the climate, for our planet, much better than the petroleum-based product.
Absolutely, we're targeting the waste that no one needs. For example, so that wood bark is being basically not needed, and nutshells are being piled up at some of the facilities in California. We use the ones from Ferrero for the processing. So our target is not needed waste, the waste that has no cost, and actually we would be paid to take that waste, and we eliminate as maximum as possible from the equation anything that would lead to CO2 emission. Like we want to minimize the transportation and everything. And then later on, we process that wood waste and imply the biocatalytic steps, green chemistry to produce adipic acid through the emission zero process
Mm.
that would not emit not only nitrous oxide but also not emit CO2 as maximized as possible.
So your production process is emission-free.
Yes, emission free. The only CO2 emission we would have in our process would be related to the transportation of the feedstock, so basically supply chain, and then the step of the pyrolysis when we process our wood derived feedstock and extract the fraction of our interest. So the energy required for the pyrolysis step. So, but the thing is, we start with a zero negative source. Or wood
Mhm.
is zero negative source. When we calculate down the road the emission of the whole process, we still going to be zero. We might be even actually having extra carbon credits.
But basically, the logistics you can take out of the equation because the logistics happens also without you uh, when it's disposed.
So logistics, we would still have to count. I mean, you for LCA, you still need to count like the supply chain emission index.
Mhm.
But the great thing about that is we don't use oil as a feedstock, so we use negative feedstock, waste feedstock, and then the nature of our process. The nature of our process does not emit CO2 or nitrous oxide. We use biocatalysis and green chemistry.
When we think about the situation that you could get all the wood waste that we have in the world and apply your technology, how much of the nylon production could you replace per year?
Oh, that's a very kind of difficult calculation. So because we don't really know how much wood waste we have in the world, we can
Mm.
honestly have an idea only within our, basically around Calgary from one facility, wood processing facility or nuts processing facility. So it would be really difficult to do calculation around the world. I think we can start with step by step, do the calculations around the wood processing facilities located around our facility, not not supplying companies such as Ferrero and others, and then we can just have some ideas. But the overall market size of LN66 is very big. It's like I said, it's 28 to 30 billion globally, and yeah, well, you will need a lot of facilities like OzoneBio to be able to replace all the LN66.
That's a great point. Are you okay? Because you're coughing. Can we
Yeah, I got sick a couple days ago, so
Oh,
today it's better.
how much time do you want to use to continue? I mean, you can ask questions endlessly.
It's up to you, really.
Okay, but if you're okay, then we can continue. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
I find it quite interesting, your approach. I think there is a lot of wood waste in the world, and it's then when your approach works, there is a lot of potential to make the planet a better place. How far are you away from large scale, from upscaling, from really large scale manufacturing of nylon 66?
So we're already right now the kilogram scale. I mean, it might sound little, but honestly, even for the last decade, there were no reports even on the gram
Mhm.
scale production of the biodipic acid with the high purity. We have a high purity 99.1% biodipic acid and already at kilogram scale. So our target right now is to transition to quarter of the ton, half a ton year production with a small pilot facility. That's our plan for the next year, basically for this year and the next year. And then we're gonna be moving, hopefully, to fully industrial scale. But then we need to decide location closer to the feedstock to fit the LCA. So we really need to be located closer to the feedstock and the logistics
So
around it.
how would the final solution look like, basically, that you do? So you would build basically factories close to feedstock facilities.
So ideally, that's the plan. You need to be located near the wood waste source or natural waste or being shipped to you. Actually, I think the transportation over the ships is still pretty cheap. I might be wrong about the CO2 emission on the using ships. Like I hope it's less than other types of transportation. So you can be located, you can get like you get this waste to be shipped to you, one of the ways. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we will need to be we need to have a lot of feedstock to be processed, or we need to partner with some organization that would be located where near the feedstock natural location, and they would be supplying us partially pre-processed fractions of the wood of our interest.
I mean, I have a business background, and in business, there is always a huge question about the cost. So when you produce nylon with your technology at scale, industrial scale, do you expect that the price of your product is the same like it is now, lower or higher? What's your assumption?
So our target is to have a cost parity with oil derived adipic acid. Right now we're obviously more expensive, but we have a price reduction plan to go from the high price that we have right now at the pretty much it's like kg, it's a very small scale. So the target is to have at the large industrial scale a price at $3.5 per kilo. That is a cost parity with oil derived one. But if we're talking about the oil derived petroleum based adipic acid production and might be have a high taxation on its production and the price of it might be really, really high. So we have to think about what would be the price, the cost that consumer or companies will be willing to pay for the bioadipic acid that's emission zero.
But
So
otherwise, it's the same product basically. So
yeah, it is the same product. Yes, it's the same chemical. It has to
mhm,
be same. Otherwise, nylon 66 cannot be formed. So yeah,
mhm.
it's the same. The purity should be high to be made, but the production way should be different. The feedstock has to be different, renewable, and the way of making adipic acid should be different. It has to be emission zero. So that's what we achieved within the company, and we are going towards the scale up.
So it does make sense environmentally. If just I mean, with the business background, would it also be possible to make it cheaper than the current product? Is there a
So
pathway that you can envision?
we're like our pathway is to go to the industrial scale to $3.50 per kilo. The price of the adipic acid fluctuates a lot, so it can be $2 per kilo. It can be actually $11 per kilo. It depends on the price of oil per barrel and the demand of the market. Let's
Mhm.
say tomorrow's market decide that most of a barrel of the oil has to go to gasoline or polyethylene or butadiene. You will have adipic acid price skyrocketing. So, and then supply chain of the oil production, like during the, like geopolitical reasons and stuff like that, it fluctuates a lot. So your actually bio-based production of adipic acid might eventually become cheaper.
So yeah, that's true. And the wood waste, I mean, if it's priced at
Wood waste,
zero,
wood waste. The thing is, with the wood waste as a feedstock, it's available as we go, right? You can grow the tree during the couple of years. You can grow nuts as well. So the oil you don't have a millions of years to make oil. Eventually, we will be depleting that source.
mm,
So the feedstock in the form of wood waste or nutshell waste is actually good to have to produce the high value product. So it's a good news.
I
So
mean,
while
yeah.
yeah,
This is an additional advantage that you mentioned. I mean, one day we don't have oil anymore, and before that point in time, probably the oil price skyrockets anyway. I mean, when the demand stays the same and the supply is shrinking, you have price increases. And so basically, we need an alternative anyways, because nylon
absolutely,
is everywhere.
absolutely, we need an alternative for a lot of products that made from oil.
Are there,
Absolutely.
for your specific product, are there also other alternatives in production like
For
yours?
biodipic acid, no, there are no alternatives. There is no one on the market producing bio based adipic acid.
Really? So
So
you're the only one?
yeah, I don't know. I didn't see. There are like many announcements that people are trying to make adipic acid, getting like or adipic acid intermediates that they call. I don't know what it means. So adipic acid is either adipic acid or not.
Mm.
So and you that maybe they go to the large scale, but what we have right now in our hands, we actually have hundreds of grams of the adipic acid, and we certified it as a fully bio-based. We have a process that makes it, and we're transitioning to scale. I don't know of any other company actually having the product of adipic acid. If you would say we already working with confidential manufacturing partners that are in a deep conversation with us, and we
Super.
actually pretty advanced with them on testing our product, and they're one of the biggest producers of the nylon 66 and trying to implement the sustainable solutions on the market. So yeah, they pretty much, if they would have other alternatives, they would work. So the other alternative to produce adipic acid is to degrade nylon 66 somehow.
So when I play the hyper-capitalist and say, I don't care about the environment, and you still have a lot of arguments for your solution. One is the availability of oil will be going down, which increases the price automatically of the raw material. On the other hand, you said that the prices of oil fluctuate a lot, so it's really difficult to calculate the price per ton, and your price doesn't fluctuate so much. And you have a solution, leaving the environmental discussion out, uh, that you can play basically for the next 1,000 years. So it's a good alternative for the entire industry to have your nylon versus the oil-based nylon.
Yeah, the wood waste feedstocks will exist anyway, right? So let's say we go back to before the Industrial Revolution, something happens and we just don't have much of the progress. We will be using wood to build our houses and everything. So wood waste will exist anyway. As a feedstock, we're in a very good place in that sense. Our feedstock doesn't need to have millions of years to be matured. We can process it as we go. And we can make like adipic acid from several days starting from the wood waste and shelf waste. And the price definitely doesn't fluctuate. So as we see from the past several years, the price of oil can be affected by many factors, geopolitical factors. And Middle East doesn't seem to be very peaceful area right now, where the most of the oil
Yeah,
actually coming from.
the swings are wild. I mean, when you remember beginning of the pandemic, I think it was down in 2015, if I remember it right, the barrel was about $20 to $30, very cheap. Then it went up. Then with the pandemic, it went down again. And then in 2022, it went up again. I think the highest point was 120, 130. So there's a wild fluctuations on the market price.
Yeah, 10 times. So there will be the prices of other materials made out of the oil even more, right? So the processing and everything.
So there must be a huge interest from the industry once you solve this. I mean, if I understand you right, the only problem you have to solve is the upscaling to industrial scale.
Yes, exactly. So we need to get to the industrial scale, build the facility, match figure out the logistics on the feedstock location, and reach the cost parity. Cost parity, I'm not sure what will be the price in the future. We're reducing the cost of our final product, the adipic acid, daily. We're working on the solutions that addresses the reduction of the cost, and we're going to be working on it as it goes at the scale. And the nature of the scale itself reduces the cost of the production. The bigger you go at scale, the product drops in price.
I mean, let's assume you can solve these problems. What's your vision for the company? Where do you want to position your company in the value chain? Is it like, just to give some examples that I experienced in my career, some people say, okay, I feel comfortable selling the technology and I'm out of the game and won't continue anymore into something completely different? Or do you see a longer term vision where you say, I want to be part of this industry, and once we solved the first problem and we have a strong partner who can bring it to the market, we have 10 other problems that we can tackle? Where do you see your company?
We want basically we want to first solve the problem of the adipic acid at the scale, but we're working already on other products, high value products and commodity chemicals production in a more sustainable way from the wood derived feedstock. So definitely want to stay in that industry and start working on other exciting chemicals and compounds production in a renewable way through the green chemistry or biocatalysis, innovate in the area of the enzymes engineering as well. So for sure, like we're hopefully gonna get pretty good industrial partners to get to the scale fast, and then implement this technology across this industry that will help a lot in to the environment, and then starting solving other problems, producing other components, other polymers that will to reduce the CO2 emission or nitrous oxide emission or other potent gases.
Khorcheska, LinkedIn showed me that, or shows the information that your company raised $3 million in the last financing rounds. Are you open for investment currently to scale your production up?
Yeah, we raised the last summer $3 million. So right now we do still have money for the runaway. We start considering raising sooner to get to the industrial, like pilot scale faster. We might start considering raising Series A basically in autumn this year. And we're also interested in going into the joint venture agreements path with the big chemical industries partners or fashion brands that will help us to scale our technology and the production of adipic acid.
So did I understand it right? You will start the fundraising in fall this year and not complete it.
What we're trying to do first, we're trying to go to the joint venture with some fashion brands or industrial manufacturing partners that will finance the industrial scale. That would be basically the first scenario. And then if we need extra money for to use the venture money to grow the team, to implement to implement other solutions, it might be a good idea as well. So yeah, we might open the Series A raising autumn this year.
Mm. Do you have already some ballpark figures that you can throw out on the market? How much you will be looking for, or is it too early?
I think it's too early. It really will depend on how big how big is going to be the financial side from the joint venture with industrial partners, so potentially fashion brands. So the fact is that we also have money actually to scale with our previous fundraising. If we decide to go very fast, very build like facility right away, still on the ground, most probably we'll need at least 50 million to get the semi-industrial scale. Yeah.
Super. There are some investors in the climate tech space in the audience, so some might be interested. Khorcheska, I have two questions left for this podcast. Is there any topic open before I ask the last two questions that you would like to tackle in this episode that I didn't ask you?
I think we did cover a lot. I would emphasize again on the emission index that comes from the adipic acid per kilo. It's 1 kilo of adipic acid leads to 140 liters of nitrous oxide release, which is equivalent to 42,000 liters of CO2. And nitrous oxide is the potent gas that 300 times more toxic than CO2. Stays in upper layers of atmosphere, destroying ozone layer for at least 115 to 150 years. So that's the numbers that people should know. And yearly adipic acid production contributes to at least to 60 million tons of greenhouse gases emission. So yeah, that's the things that people should know. And if they have like apparel brands in their wardrobe, they should know that most probably this is enough to kind of like fill the apartment with the amount of CO2, or if it's nitrous gas, it's really toxic. It's just not a good idea anyway. So yeah, we're actually using a lot of nylon 66 also in our daily life, in our cars, in our computers, in our phones, and actually a lot is in construction businesses, so it surrounds us everywhere. And there is a huge environmental issue related to the production of conventional petroleum-based adipic acid and nylon 66. So we definitely need to do something to solve this problem and basically replace petroleum-based adipic acid with wood-derived based product. It's important that it's a wood-derived waste product, not a sugar-based product, because we don't want to compete with agricultural lands. As in future, they're going to be shrinking and they're not going to be really available much. So we really want to work with some sort of waste feedstocks, either nutshells or wood waste or other type plastic waste, any type of waste to be converted to high value products.
So basically, people who want to live environmental friendlier, for those people, it makes sense until we have your solution to buy less clothes, basically. So every time they buy.
Yeah, to buy less clothes, and I think for fashion brands that really care about the environment, they should start implementing using at least some amount of adipic acid that we produce. in their blends. It doesn't have to be fully made. Until we get to scale, they can start using it as right now, basically, because like I said, 1 kilo is enough. It's 42,000 liters of CO2. So there's some amount to be used in the to make clothes. So they can start implementing it even right now. That was our idea initially.
Okay.
So even a little amount of adipic acid can be used in the final blend of nylon 66. We actually have our own trademark. It's called OzoneNil. So we can make nylon 66 from the bioadipic acid, and we call it OzoneNil. So you can vary the concentration of the bioadipic acid used in the final blend and reduce emission index accordingly. So people can actually decide what sort of emission index they can afford. So the price of the nylon tights, nylon pants will go up depending on the amount of the adipic acid used in the final blend. So, and then fashion brands can also decide what would be the amount of adipic acid used in the final nylon 66 tights or top, and then indicate the emission index, very straightforward, and offer to the customer a choice of how much they care about the environment, basically, how much they can spend.
So the apparel brands can purchase part of the solution already from you.
Yeah, I think yes, they can already start purchasing adipic acid. Exactly. Yeah, we're already transitioning from kilo to 100 kilo scale. Yeah, and already start implementing. It's the kilo of adipic acid that we have right now in the lab will be enough to have limited edition of nylon 66 pants, for example, because one pant made out of 150 grams of the adipic acid. So it will be enough to make at least about 10 pants of fully bio-based adipic acid. If you want to use certain percentage of the adipic acid and indicate the emission index reduction, you can make more. So it's enough to make a limited collection.
So you could basically run pilot projects already with the industry.
Exactly. Yes. And so that's what yes, exactly.
So they can play around with your technology, find out how it works, if the quality is comparable, if the reception from customers is positive or negative on that. So you already produce sufficient scale for small pilot projects.
It's sufficient scale for the small pilot project to make some sort of limited edition. I think the polymerization can be made at scale about 3 kilo small reactor. So we can provide that, and then about 3 kilo of the nylon can be made at one batch, and that 3 kilo of the nylon can be used to make whatever, basically. And then you can again mix some of the adipic acid with the oil-derived one, so not fully bio-adipic acid can be used, and you basically can make certain different emission indexes, basically per pant or per top. So that's sufficient.
How would your ideal customer look like for this pilot project? If you could choose from everything in the world that's available, how would you define your current, for this next project, for this pilot project, how would you define your preferred customer, ideal world?
I think it would be a fashion brand that really cares on the environmental solutions and want to implement environmental solutions right away, would be open to work on very small scale and adjusting maybe a little bit adjusting their production. It depends on implementing this small scale of their nylon 66, and basically right away demonstrating that they can make production out of nylon 66. We know already that our quality of that bioadipic acid is high enough because our partners already did that testing. We know that nylon 66 has quite high quality as well. What we want is actually very interested, great fashion brand, I would say, that will be willing to do limited edition of the nylon clothing using our material.
So basically, price-wise, I mean, it would make sense for luxury brands, for example, to make a special edition with a new product that is not available for other people.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it would be for the luxury brand, it would be the easiest
Mhm.
way, I guess.
There's enough profit margins, I think, in that area due to the um, speciality of their production and the high quality. So you could add to that with the stamp environmental friendly additionally.
I think like many brands are interested in that,
Mm,
and it's just like they have to be more willing to change the production scale to the small scale for the limited edition. Sometimes some brands are struggling with that and struggling
mm.
with controlling their supply chain. So our ideal customer would be like, okay, you got give us 1 kilo, we're gonna make nylon pants, nylon tops out of it. That's it, it's done.
Sounds great. Sounds great. You have gained a lot of experience transitioning from academia into entrepreneurship, part of IndieBio, and now running a company and scaling it up. What advice would you give a scientist who wants to become an entrepreneur?
um, it's kind of difficult. So I'm not very good at giving advices, but I would say just like follow your interest, your passion. I think no matter what, like if you have some interest, an idea, and you believe in it, just go and follow it. No matter what, there will be a lot of like obstacles. Most like often it's happening. Like a lot of people that will be really, really not pleasant on your way, and doesn't matter if you believe in your path and you believe and you're interested in what you're doing, just go no matter what. Go ahead and do it just to piss off that people that actually ever cross your road and said something bad back to you, just like basically to imagine their face when they would like hear something good about you, give out good news, and that should encourage you. At least in my case, it works.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. My final question is, I mean, we're all working towards a better future, especially with sustainability goals. Just imagine you could mold the world the way you want it. How would your future look like in 20 years? What would change?
mm, well, to be honest, I really want to see improved way of producing many things, products like food or anything in developing countries such as China and India, Malaysia. It's just like it really bugs my mind when I picture and I've seen like a lot of documentaries. I also been in China. Really
Mm,
bugs my mind the way that people live and the environmental issues that they suffer. When you live in Canada or live in United States, you live like in Disneyland comparing to this country. I really want to see improved life in these countries, improved way of producing products, producing food, and quality of water, quality of air. Because I think in general we cannot live well on this planet, uh, knowing that somewhere in on Earth, it's one planet, really like one shape. We're going on in one direction. If people in one country or several countries live that way and have that quality of water or that quality of air, that eventually will hit the developed countries really bad and really hard. So I really want to see the improved life in countries like Canada, Malaysia, and India. I think not Canada, China. So China is going towards that. It's getting really, really better. but countries like India, Malaysia, they still need to do. And I really hope developed countries will stop burying their radioactive waste or any sort of like waste in the developing countries or on the shores of the developing countries in Africa and so on. And yeah, less suffering in the world. I want to see less suffering in the world, in the developing countries. That's what I want to see.
I totally agree. There are a lot of unsolved problems in the world, and scientists like you, I think, are the solution for these difficult problems. So every young person in the early 20s, late teens, get your university degree, get into science, start a company, and solve a problem.
Well, yeah, I hope so. I hope it's gonna need a lot of political decisions as well, I guess. And yeah, like I hope there will be less suffering in the world. I know maybe I'm just like another sort of a dreamer, something.
I'm positive that together we can achieve this goal, and we can make it possible if we work together, cooperate globally in a connected world, and tackle one problem after the other. I'm positive and confident about that.
Yeah.
Khorcheska, thank you very much for this great conversation. I enjoyed learning more about how zombies can save the planet and keep pushing your company forward. And I hope soon that also in the stores here in Austria, we see your nylon in
Yeah.
apparel brands.
Yeah. Hope so too. Thank you. It was great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it
Thanks a
too.
lot.
Have a great day. See you soon.
You too. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.